Hi, friends. Happy Saturday. It is Saturday, June 6th. I hope you are having a great weekend. I originally had this live stream set to go, I think it was June 18th, because our next annual meeting was the following week. So it would give us some time to not so far ahead of the annual meeting this year, but give us some time to look at last year's annual meeting and get our heads in the right space for this year's annual meeting. Then it dawned on me when I saw the voting packet that came out with our ballots on June 2nd that we are voting this year on last year's meeting minutes. And for some reason, every year that surprises me. I guess I am one of those people that cannot remember what I had for lunch last Thursday. And I find it very hard for us to go back and approve meeting minutes from a meeting a year ago, a year later. So in this session, June 6th, we are going to go back and look at the annual meeting in 2025 that happened on June 25th of 2025. We're going to watch the meeting. We are going to look at the meeting minutes that were in the voter registration packet for this year, and we're going to talk about whether or not we would approve them as part of our vote. I will say I went through and just at a high level, the order in which the meeting minutes are in the voting packet is the Pledge of Allegiance, the intro to all of the sitting directors, the POA Hall of Fame. Les Pendleton puts in his friend and college roommate, Steve. We have Troon intro. We voted to approve the meeting minutes from 2024. We had a roads and streets update from Don Moore. Larry Bazin gave an RFID project update. Mike Foster gave us an update on the marinas. The Harbour Club was about 80% complete, so we got a quick update on that. We had the treasurer's update by Kevin Heidel. Then Hope spoke up and restated some changes to the votes for the 2024 meeting minutes. They were approved. Election results for last year's election. The new board of director members took their oath of office, and then we adjourned with no open questions and answers or Q&A session. So that is kind of the order of operations in which the meeting was conducted last year. So we're going to watch it. We're going to read through this year's meeting minutes that were put into the voter packet that went out on June 2nd with our votes electronically. And let's see. I am going to show the annual meeting as it was on FH space POA. As you know, we have several folks doing YouTube channels related to Fairfield Harbour. This one was the primary venue or outlet, if you will, for the meeting. I did also stream this meeting in the room. I have noise canceling microphones, and so whenever we get large bodies of people clapping, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, things like that, my microphones tend to cut out because they're trying to eliminate all of that extraneous noise. I am going to watch the FH space POA, not only because it's a little bit clearer from an audio perspective, especially when multiple people are talking, but it was also the official link to last year's live stream. Okay, so with that being said, let me minimize myself. My daughter is walking behind me. Let me minimize myself. All right, here we go.
Hello, hello. Let's start getting to our seats at 7 o'clock.
I will say I fast forwarded this about 25 minutes, you'll see down here at the bottom, because there was just a lot of people coming in and getting seated and just outside conversations happening by the microphone. So I've just sped us ahead till we get started.
Start promptly. Thank you all for coming. We will stand up first and do the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We call the meeting to order. And a lot of you do or do not know Hope Carmichael. She is the attorney for the POA. She has checked to make sure we do have a quorum here tonight. Okay, thank you. Now we'll present everybody that's currently on the board. We'll start right here with this gentleman right here.
Don Moore. Don Moore. Chris Barajas. Larry Baisden.
Les Pendleton. If I'm smiling, you know why. Win-win for me tonight.
I will be up in a minute. So, yeah.
Michael Foster.
Deb Harris.
Bob Grudy. Kevin Heidel.
Rhonda Miller.
Well, first, thank you all for coming. And I want to do a special thank you tonight for volunteers that have been with us for quite a while now. Rhonda will be leaving us after tonight. She's given countless hours of her time to be the secretary of this organization. And it is a lot of work. I mean, you're held accountable for what you put on paper. There's plenty of people willing to call you to task if you have anything wrong at all. She smiles through it, says whatever, and has done it for a long time. And we thank you very much, Rhonda. Kevin is also departing us, and we thank you for countless hours of mingling the numbers, trying to make them work. If you can make a budget work, that's something I've never been able to accomplish in my life. So thank you, Kevin. I know it's a lot of work there. Thanks. I want to thank one other group of people in this community that get very little recognition is the volunteers, and there are a lot of them. And I am sure you could not tell us who is on most of the committees that we have. And there's a lot of committees. How many committees are there, Jennifer? All the committees that, about volunteers. 10 or 15. Okay. Well, anyway, it's the Waterfront Committee, the Dock Committee, the PCC, just goes on and on. Stormwater, the roads, streets, safety and security, animal control. I don't want to say adjudicatory panel. Covenant enforcement. Okay. Anyway, there's a lot of people give a lot of time here. And I think that the POA ought to, in the coming year, do some form of annual recognition for people who have volunteered for long periods of time. Some that would immediately come to mind are like Ray Respis, if y'all are familiar with him. It's like having a full-time surveyor that works for us. He donates lots of hours of his time. Walt Littleton, he's on several committees, always helping out everything he does. There's a lot of people like this in the community. We owe a lot to them. How many times do you go down Broad Creek Road and see the gentleman with white hair there constantly picking up the trash along the road that other people put there? That's all volunteer. And I know I've seen him do it 100 hours since I've lived here. So, and tonight we're going to recognize one of them. We're going to recognize a fellow that I've known for over half a century. He was my roommate in college. So I've seen him at his best and at his worst. And I convinced him to move here, which that's why I'm doing the recognition thing tonight, because he hasn't forgiven me for moving him into all of this stuff here. But anyway, he's been on the Stormwater Committee. I can tell you, when he worked for the state of North Carolina, he was head of it for the whole state. And if you do a good job in your career in that department, you will receive the Lifetime Steve Steinbeck Award, which is named for him. He has given his time to our community here as well as a volunteer. I do know when they were building the clubhouse, they came back with a statement from the people that were inspecting everything that they would need tons of fill and all kinds of extra foundation work. Steve said, no, I know this area well. I've been surveying out here and doing testing here for, God, 50 years. That's not right. And so he went out and he tested himself and he came back and said, you're right. And it saved us $400,000 right there. So we owe him a lot of gratitude and we wanted to give him our POA Hall of Fame Award here tonight. So Steve, come on up. Mhm. Mhm. Right. There you go, Steve. You're welcome. You want to say a word to your community? Say a word.
Thank y'all. Please be seated. It's on. Yeah, thank you. Thank y'all. I've always said give back to the community. That's the way my family raised me from the time I was a little kid. So whether it be Boy Scouts or your town or your club or your profession, always give back. I'm going to paraphrase an old politician back when I was in the 8th or 9th grade. Ask not what you can give, what your community will do for you. Ask what you can do for your community. This community lives by volunteers. Every town in this state has to have hundreds of volunteers to make it all work. And those committees have to work together. And we've had to make a lot of tough decisions. And we don't have an unlimited budget. So those are challenges, but it's been a few good years that I've enjoyed, and it's time for me to retire. Thank you all.
Thanks. Whoops. And Jennifer, do you want to introduce the staff that's here? A lot of people do not know who they're talking with on the phone.
It is my pleasure to introduce Kathleen Vuich, who is the community coordinator in the office. This is Amanda Withers, who is our brand new club manager. This is Justin Orton, who is our lifestyle manager. And this is Jackie. Jackie, what's your last name? Giambertoni. She is our kitchen lead, our kitchen manager. Where's Will? Where'd Will go? That's Will Cottle in the back. You know Will. And one more person to introduce is my new boss. This is Peter Ferrone. He's trying to hide back there next to Steve.
We'll keep moving right along. You know, I was telling somebody the other day when they were saying, well, what was the experience like for you being on the board there? I said, the only thing I could think of that's similar to it is perhaps being on the peacekeeping force in the Gaza Strip. Both sides are trying to kill you, you know? So I guess we will go ahead and turn this over to Hope, who is going to be our parliamentarian tonight. She'll also announce the winners of the election, God bless them, and carry us through to the end of this.
Thank you, Les. And so first up, I am Hope Carmichael. So sorry I didn't stand up earlier. Nice to be with you again. For the approval of your 2024 minutes, those of you who voted online know that that was on the ballot to be approved this year. There were, sorry, this is really small. I got 1,374 votes cast for the approval of the minutes, 1,042 in favor, 322 against. The minutes are approved by a majority vote. So thank you for voting. Last week for board reports tonight, I believe, was it Mike Foster or who was going to give? Okay.
Larry wants to report on.
Okay. I'm going to start at that end of the table, Don, with you. So just pass the mic to the next one down.
Tonight, I'm just going to give you a little information on what's going on with our roads and streets. Right now, we're paving 11 holes on the golf course. Holes 1 through 3, 5, 6, 10, 11, 13, and 18. There were three culverts out there that we were going to put under the golf carts, but unfortunately the old culverts are collapsing and we're not going to do that. We're going to spread that over the next couple of years. We did one culvert over on hole 18 all the way across the course. Right now, the Rosa Street is also working actively with to identify all the potholes and various things on our roads that need repair. We're trying to break it up into whose responsibility it is, whether it's the POA's responsibility, CWS, or the fiber company, to see who needs to spend that in repair of those. That's a full assessment of all the streets in the POA. We're also looking at all the road edges and surveying them for where they need attention. This is going to be a multi-year project to fill in all those edges and resod all that information, all those. We're also looking at the main gate, at the drainage system there, the aprons, and the curbing repairs there. Looking at the swales along there too, and continue that through the harbor. Additionally, out on the Gondola Peninsula, there's a stormwater project that's been going for months, where the CWS is replacing the buried sewer line out there. And they've been working on that for, what, 6 months now? So, or more. So, we're also looking at the Gondola Peninsula for replacement of 7 stormwater structures out there. The Stormwater Committee is also looking at bridges over the swales. They're coming up with a process of permitting the bridging of the swales and the requirements to do that. Right now, if they come across the swales that are blocking the flow, they're removing those bridges. And in order to rebuild the bridge, you'll need to get an approval, and that should be released very shortly. And any of the existing bridges that were not interfering with the swales, they're going to grandfather those in. You will need to put in a permit request though for those. Also up along Petite Terre, they're currently doing a resurfacing or regrading of that whole area up there, which is coming along really nicely on that. So, and we're working on all sorts of different other erosion control techniques to get the flow better through here. One of the ones they did was for the trees that are along the Broad Creek there on the golf course. They put a small swale that runs down to the pond that'll take the flow from going into the Broad Creek swale and reverse it into the pond. That's going to keep the water from going across and backing up on Cara there and causing those homes flooding. So, and just so everybody knows that the stormwater structure in here is designed to handle 2 inches of rain in 48 hours. So when we get these downpours that are 5 inches in a day, we're in trouble. So, but anyhow, that's what we're looking at right now. So if you have any questions about any of that, always feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to try to get you answers for that.
All right, my name is Larry Baisden. I want to give you an overview of the RFID project. And I will not bore you with all the details on it because it's a long thing. Actually, the contracts were signed about a year ago, last week. And then after the contracts were signed, there was planning had started and begun on where they were going to put each reader and all the gates were going to go and how everything was going to be managed. And where the camera locations would be for the license plate recognition cameras. I was appointed to the board in August, so I wasn't here for the other part. After I came to the board, my task was to make this work, implement it. And that's what I've been working on since I got here. Along with the safety committee, one of the things we determined was that we needed to implement this in phases. We wanted to have the least amount of disruption to Fairfield that we could. It's a massive, massive project, as you'll hear in a minute. I'm going to give you some stats. We had to work with different partners. We worked with Blackbeard Sailing Club. We worked with RMG, VRI, and at that time we were working with Northwest Creek Marina. We got our long range readers installed, the ones that read the stickers on your windshield, and they got installed on the Shoreline and Harbor Point gate. Then we later, about a month later, got it installed on Barkentine gate. So it was a little time sensitive trying to get all that done. And so that we decided that was the best step for the first step, was to get our stickers operational. We began selling windshield stickers. And if you remember, we were out in the parking lot in the cold weather last year, trying to get those things sold, and we sold a bunch of them. Okay. Then we started installing the short range readers. We got those installed on the main gate and the Harbor Point gate and Barkentine gate. And then we began selling cards. The keypads were removed from the Harbor Point gate. That had to be done because the reader used the same wires that the keypad used. So we had to do away with that. It took a little longer to get the keypad out on Barkentine. That was the last one we did, and it's now installed. So the good news is all of our gate access is now in place. Okay. We began supporting phone apps with guest access. And that's been a large project because there was a lot of education to do, and we're still struggling with that. We're going to try to do a better job. And every time somebody calls or needs help in how to do it, we try to accommodate that. The video intercoms are working, and now we have cameras on Barkentine and Harborside that are viewable from the guard shack, and the guards can talk to the folks that are coming in. And of course, because we have RFID does not mean that the guards are going away. It doesn't mean that you can't come in the way we've always come in, or the way that guests have always arrived. You can always call and check somebody in at the gate. Okay. Recently, I would say about a month ago, the LPR license plate recognition camera contract was signed. The good news is they are now ordered, and I think they have them in-house. And our DVR, the digital video recorder, the device that's going to record all the video from the license plates, it is now installed. And so within 30 days, we'll have all of that operation. Okay. So some quick stats to tell you about how big this project is. Since it began, we've created 2,400 user accounts. Since it began, we've installed or sold 3,100 windshield stickers. We've sold over 1,000 cards. And the phone app is available to all folks that have a user account, and it's not a requirement to purchase anything to be able to get a user account. All you have to do is let me know, we can get you entered. Over 600 phone apps have been created and installed. And that's about it. I want to thank everybody in Fairfield for the patience, because it's been a growing pain for us and a learning process, but we're trying to make it as streamlined as we can and as painless as we can. But I want to thank the POA staff, because they've helped tremendously, the safety committee, and other volunteers that just came in and volunteered to help make this project a success. The gate access is mostly complete, but we're still working to smooth out a few problems. And we do know we've got a couple, but we're working on those as we go. The next year, that's this past year, what's happened. In the next year, what we'll be doing is adding in door controls. And it will be using the same RFID cards, credentials that you have now. And instead of having to check out keys, the doors will then you'll be able to open doors and check out rooms and buildings just by your card. Okay. And all of this was done to enhance safety and increase the convenience for Fairfield Harbor. If anybody has any questions, please direct them to me by email. I have my information is on front steps, and I'll be happy to respond to everyone. Thank you.
Mike?
Good evening. Good to see you all here tonight. I have a report on the marinas that were replaced. And the best information I read about that was reading the 2024 minutes. It's covered really concisely in there, and it'll explain it to you. The other portion is the seawall inside inside Fairfield Harbor. That's community property, and that's all being replaced with vinyl. There's 3,600 feet there, and we've got about 1,000 feet finished. So it's a multi-year project, and it'll carry over for a couple of years, but that's going to be a big improvement. There were a few places that we didn't do and did a jump because there were some collapses, and we wanted to address those so they wouldn't continue to put sedimentation into the harbor. Beyond that, the docks are replaced. There's 24 over Birdland. There's 24 over in front of the Harbor Club. They look great. They're pretty full, not completely. The Harbor Club itself is Bill tells me it's about 80% complete. I did a walkthrough with him again the other day. You can see all the improvements that are going on the outside. There's a lot of it done on the inside. It's going to look great. The other portion of that, kind of lost my train of thought there for a minute. The Harbor Club is coming along nicely. I talked to Bill about the possibility of having supply issues with supply chains, and he's pretty confident that we're not going to have that issue. So the timing on it should be late October is the kind of target time, and we'll see as everything comes together. That's about it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm not going to reiterate the 2024 financials. They were sent out and distributed through a weekly update a couple of weeks ago. So I'm not going to reiterate other to say that it was a very, very difficult year. As an example, we were down $134,000 in our restaurant income. 30,000 of that's attributed to the closure we had in November for the plumbing issues that we had. But it was a very difficult year. We recognized early that we were not getting the revenue streams in, and working with Jennifer and her staff, we cut back expenses, a lot. So when you look at trends from previous years to 2024, you will be able to see the operational expenses have gone down a lot. And so that's got to be an anomaly. But we came out 33,000 over expended in our earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, which is really good. However, our full net income was positive by $164,000. All right, we're now working in fiscal year 25, and I just want to say that we lost Cindy from our office, who was our accounts payable person. We lost our regional manager for Troon, and we also lost our senior accountant. We are now working with a new management team. And again, there's a big learning curve here. This is a very complex budget. It's not easy because of the way we do all the allocations and doing actual income statements for each part of our business. All right, but I can give you a slight view of where we look for the first 2 months. Our gross income was $1,050,000. That's up about $178,000. Our expenses are $524,000, up about $8,700 from last year. Our EBITDA number was $533,000. 2024 was $364,000. All right, so we were up about $169,000 there. All right, but the net income was, like I said, about $164,000. Well, no, we're up about $169,000. All right. Golf. Income is about $127,600. It's down roughly about $3,000 to $4,000 from last year. Our expenses are $190,000, up $25,000 from last year. However, the big item is an allocation of the Troon management fee. Troon management fee runs about $250,000 a year, and we allocate those portions out to the golf course as well as to the POA. That's an item that we're going to have to check on along with other items. Again, like I said, we have a brand new financial team and stuff, and there's a learning curve. So there's going to be some investigation and research that needs to be done so we can make sure that we get those numbers into the right places. All right, the point, gross income, 59,300, up $11,482 from last year. Expenses, 46,900. Okay, down about 23,800 from last year. As of today, all right, we're up roughly about $35,000. Okay, in the restaurant. All right, as I mentioned, our gross income is up $178,000. All right, a big part of that, and this is also has to be investigated, is that the POA dues is up $144,000. That needs to be investigated because we did not raise the dues. All right, so we have to investigate to see where that came in. That could also be an accrual process. The way it is we take what we collected and we spread it out over 12 months. All right, we don't post that just as a one-time revenue source in one particular or two particular months. Otherwise, our green fees and cart fees are up about 14,000, and our expenses are up about 8,700. All right, so we're pretty much on the same target. Shows a little bit better, like I said, in the restaurant. There's some investigation into the numbers that have to be looked at, but I'm confident that we're either at or will be doing better than we did in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kevin, I wanted to mention to you, Suzanne had told me earlier in the week that we thought we may have overpaid our dues this year by 144,000. And if you could get that back to us, we'd appreciate it. Okay. And now Hope, who has been with us many, many years, does this better than anybody I know. And we're very thankful to have her on our side. Hope Carmichael.
Thank you, Les. I do want to correct for the minutes, because this writing is really tiny, my mental math. The numbers were correct on the minutes of 1,000. Now we got to look at it again real close. 1,042 in favor, 322 against, but my mental math upped it by 10. So it was 1,364, not 374 votes received. So just to correct that for the minutes, let me go back to the agenda. All right, it is now time to announce the election results. As many of you know, and as was announced, the election results are distributed and Vote HOA Now as your electronic vote provider. And most of the balloting was by electronic vote. Again, 1,364 electronic ballots received. There were 18 paper ballots received. The electronic votes are transmitted by Vote HOA Now to your CPA, Eric Bregman of Ernie and Company. And the paper ballots are returned directly to Ernie and Company. So they never go into anyone's hands other than those of the CPA. The CPA firm has certified the results, and those don't go into anyone's hands other than mine. So I am here to announce those results to you. Of the 1,364 votes received, with the 18 paper ballots, the total votes by candidate: Les Fawcett, 765 votes; Wayne Anderson, 761 votes; Neil Watts, 575 votes; Debbie Harris, 515 votes; Robert Martin, 132 votes. Your new directors are Lee Fawcett and Wayne Anderson. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Let me call the meeting to order. Let me call the meeting to order. Let me call the meeting to order. We need to install, we need to call the meeting to order. We're going to install the new directors and Rhonda Miller as the secretary. Lee and Wayne, are you here? Oh, okay. If you will step forward to take the oath of office.
Bylaws of Fairfield Harbor and to abide by the restrictions that apply to the POA Board of Directors.
I further agree to exercise my obligations and fiduciary responsibility.
Okay.
Oops, I'm sorry.
I heard that. So hopefully you all heard that. Thank you, gentlemen, for reading that. Let me go back to the agenda. I now will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay. All those in favor of adjournment signify by raising your hands. Any opposed? Thank you. The board has asked, we are going to dispense with the Q&A session for tonight, given everything that's going on in the community, and allow the new board to plan a town hall or some other venue where questions and answers can be posed to the newly installed board. So thank you so much for coming and have a good night.
All right. So that was our board meeting, annual meeting from June 25th of 2025. So I am going to pull up now for us. This is the agenda and the minutes as they were approved. Let me get through this. There was a packet associated with our voting rights, and I'm just going to read through these last 3 pages are the minutes from the 2024 meeting. Fairfield Harbor Property Owners Association 2025 annual meeting minutes, June 25th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Members present. So these were the board members present. We had President Les Pendleton, Vice President Chris Barajas, Directors Larry Basin, Mike Foster, Debbie Harris, Don Moore, Treasurer Kevin Heidel, and Secretary Rhonda Miller. Others in attendance were Hope Carmichael. She acted as our parliamentarian and is the attorney for the Fairfield Harbor Property Owners Association, Jennifer Judaitis, and our community manager, Ann Troon. The meeting was called to order at 7 p.m. by Les Pendleton, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance of the assembled community. Hope Carmichael verified that the quorum was in attendance, and an affirmative statement by Secretary Miller. President Pendleton handed the mic to Don Moore to begin the introductions of each board member, and they went from right at the table, if you were looking at the table from right to left, Don Moore, Chris Barajas, Larry Basin, Les Pendleton, Mike Foster, Debbie Harris, Bob Brody, Kevin Heidel, and Rhonda Miller. President Pendleton thanked everybody for coming to the meeting and the volunteers that have been with us for many years. He recognized Rhonda Miller for the countless hours of service over several years as the board secretary. She'll be leaving this position tonight. Also, President Pendleton thanked Kevin Heidel for volunteering countless hours to make the budget work. He also is leaving the board tonight. President Pendleton expressed his thanks to the many volunteers on Fairfield Harbor committees. There were 10 or 15 of those. A lot of people give time, like Ray Redness, who does surveying for us, like it's a full-time job. Walt Littleton is on many committees, and the gentleman on the road gang that has given hundreds of hours to his time on the Broad Creek Road committee, that's the cleanup committee. The POA should do something in recognition of those who donate so many hours to our community. We owe them a lot. Tonight, we are going to recognize a volunteer that I've known for over half a century. He was my roommate in college, and I convinced him to move here. He's been the head of the state of North Carolina Stormwater Department. When you do a good job in the Stormwater Department, you get a lifetime Steve Steinbeck Award, and it's named after him. When it was determined by the first group testing the soil for the clubhouse that we needed an additional grading fill and extra work, Steve did his own testing, and it was made evident that he was right and we did not need that extra expense. Steve told them that he had been testing soil in Fairfield Harbor for over 15 years and we didn't need the fill. Steve saved us $400,000 in that decision, and tonight at last year's meeting, we awarded him to the POA Hall of Fame for his service. Steve came forward to accept the award. He thanked the board and said that he was raised to give back to his community. He paraphrased JFK to say, "Ask not what your community can do for you, but what you can do for your community." Steve said it was time to retire and received a round of applause. Jennifer introduced the Troon staff: Kathleen Bwitch, the community coordinator; Amanda Withers, the club manager; Justin Orton, events manager. I think she called him the lifestyle manager. Jackie, oh, I cannot pronounce that last name, as the kitchen manager; Will Caudle as the maintenance manager, and we had a new Troon vice president and Jennifer's immediate supervisor, Peter Ferrone. The next page. The meeting was turned over to Attorney Hope Carmichael. She reported that the approval of the 2024 minutes had been voted on in the election. There were 1,374 votes cast, 1,052 for, 322 against. The minutes were approved by a majority vote. Again, later on in the minutes, she goes back to update that to 1,364 total votes cast. But again, the meeting minutes were approved for 2024. Don Moore gave an update on the activities for the Roads and Streets Committee. We were paving 11 holes on the golf course, holes 1 through 3, 5, 6, 10, 11, 13, and 18. 3 culverts were going to be paved on the golf course for the carts, but they are collapsing, and we are not going to do that. We are going to spread that over 3 years. The committee is working to identify potholes and repairs that are needed, and who's responsible for those repairs. Was it the POA, Carolina Water Services, or the fiber company? We are looking at road edges to see what needs to be fixed. This will be a multi-year project to fill in and resod. We are looking at the main gate curbing and aprons and drainage. Gondolier Peninsula stormwater project has been going on for more than 6 months. CWS is working on replacing the sewer line there. Gondolier Peninsula also had 7 stormwater structures needing repairs. Stormwater is also working on bridges over the swells and coming up with a process for the bridges. Replacement of swells will involve permits and requests for the bridges. So again, if you have those little bridges that kind of cut across the swales onto the green space, if any were blocking or creating debris walls that blocked water from moving through there freely, those bridges were being removed, and there was going to be a separate process to permit or request a new bridge if you wanted one replaced, and or to grandfather in and have those bridges that remained permitted. Let's see. Existing bridges will be grandfathered in that do not interfere with drainage. Petite Terre is currently being regraded, which is going well. Other erosion techniques which are being done to get flow of water through here better. One project was by the trees on the golf course on Broad Creek Road. The swells were changed so that the water in the swell goes to the pond and keeps it off of Broad Creek Road and the properties on Caracara. Fairfield Harbor Stormwater is designed for 2 inches of rain in 48 hours. So when we get downpours of 5 inches in a day, we're in trouble. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Don Moore. And I'm sure at this point, Stormwater Committee Chair has likely changed, but I'm sure you can get that information on Front Steps. Larry Basin gave an overview of the RFID project. The contracts were signed more than a year ago with plans for the readers, gates, and cameras. He had joined the board in August after everything was planned, and he was responsible for just executing. The safety committee determined we needed to implement the program in phases and make it the least amount of disruption to everyone. This is a massive project. The reader for the shoreline side and the harbor point were installed, and then a month later for Barkentine entrance. We thought this was a best first step to take. We began selling window stickers and short range cards in the home apps can grant access, guest access. Videos and intercoms on Barkentine and Harbor Point are working so that the guards can communicate with drivers. The guards are not going away. License plate readers, also known as LPRs and DVRs, are being installed and should be operational within 30 days. So this would have been July-ish last year, 2025. I tell you how big this project is. 2,400 user accounts were created. There are 3,100 windshield stickers at the time floating around, 1,000 cards, and 600 phone apps were installed. Phone apps were free to account owners. We thank you for your patience. He also wanted to thank the POA staff, the safety committee, and other volunteers that made that project complete. Next year's project is to install the door controls that was on the Harbor Club for room and building access rather than keys to enhance security and convenience for property owners. If you had any questions, you could contact Larry Basin. His information was on front steps. Mike Foster reported on the marinas. The best information Mike read was in the 2024 minutes of the annual meeting, very concise. So, at the annual meeting in 2025, the best information to get on the marinas was from the year prior in 2024. We did not restate that here. We could go pull it up if we wanted to. But he did give an update on the seawall for the inner harbor, and that was that the Fairfield Harbor communities being replaced with vinyl. That seawall was being replaced with vinyl. We have 3,600 feet and have finished about 1,000 finished. It will be a multi-year project. There were a few collapsed places that we did a jump to fix those so that we stopped putting sediment into the inner harbor. And when we go back to fix the rest of the seawall, the marinas have been replaced. There are 24 slips in the Birdland and 24 at the Harbor Club. The Harbor Club is approximately 80% complete. It's going great, and supply issues seem not to be a problem, and late October is the target date for completion. And I did go back, I was looking at my phone, December, so we were looking at a late October go live date for the Harbor Club, and I believe it was December 12th or 13th that we had the open house, and the plaque on the wall in the Harbor Club has the date of December 12th, so we were just a couple months behind schedule there. Kevin Heidel stated that the 2024 financials were sent out with the weekly update. It was a very difficult year. Restaurant income was down $135,000. That was mainly because of the shutdown for plumbing issues, which accounted for $30,000. And I give that look and that because if a majority of it was because of the plumbing shutdown and issues, which only accounted for 30,000, then we have 105,000 that was still an issue with us being down. Jen and her staff have cut back on expenses a lot. We were 33,000 overextended on EBITDA. We ended 169,000 positive. We lost several staff like Cindy, our accounts payable person, our regional manager, and senior accountant. We're all working with a new management team at Troon. There is a learning curve involved. Gross income was 1.05 million, which was up 178,000 from last year. Expenses were 524,000, up 8,700. Our EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization, was 33,000 in 2024. It was 364,000 in 2025, and our net income was up $169,000. Kevin did go on to say, I don't know if it's in here. I'll keep reading and then I'll make the comment. Golf was 127,600. Income was down 4,000. Expenses were 190,000, which were up 25,000 from the prior year. Part of the problem is the allocation of the troon fee, which is split between the golf course and the POA, and greens fees were up 14,000. I think it's interesting we didn't include the dollar figure, but our fee that we paid a troon to manage the golf course is, I think Kevin said, I wrote it down, $250,000 a year, thereabouts. So $250,000 we send to Troon annually. That should be noted in here. The Point had an income of 59,300, up 11,400 from 2024. Expenses were $46,900, down $22,800. Our gross income was up $178,000, though there was no dues increase. So there was going to have to be a look into why we had that additional income listed as dues. The increase may be due to the accrual process for dues. They're not added into the budget all at once, but rather accounted for over the 12 months is what he explained. Attorney Carmichael made a correction to the minutes. There were 1,042 approved votes of the 2024 minutes and 322 against, which is a total of 1,364, not 1,374 votes. We did elect both Lee Fawcett and Wayne Anderson. So paper ballots were sent directly to Ernie and Company, and then also they got their votes from Vote HOA Now. There were 1,364 electronic votes, 18 paper, and the final results were sent to the Attorney Carmichael. So the results were as follows. Lee Fawcett received 765 votes, Wayne Anderson 761 votes, Neil Watts 575 votes, Debbie Harris 515 votes, Bob Martin 132 votes. And Attorney Carmichael called the meeting to order after an outburst from the audience, which was just celebratory. Rhonda Miller will issue the oath of office to Mr. Fawcett and Mr. Anderson. The winning candidates repeated the oath of office. We entertained a motion to adjourn the meeting, which was seconded from the floor. A vote by raising hands was taken and the meeting was adjourned. There was not open Q&A. There was going to be a subsequent session for that. Thank you and have a good night. And then, yes, you can go to the link, and I'll put it in the description of this meeting, the link that we actually went to for the official recording of the meeting. Again, if you want my recording, I don't know why you would, but if you want that, you are certainly welcome to peruse the Fairfield Harbour podcast, and it is there as well in an unofficial capacity. If it were me, just based on some of the subtle nuances that were not verbatim, I also don't like the fact that we just say the most concise update for the marinas was in the minutes from the year before, right? We should be restating those so that we have a good understanding of what hasn't changed in the past year. And again, we're voting on these minutes a year later, and a lot of the folks that were guiding some of these RFID projects, stormwater committee with the permitting and stuff, all of this stuff the folks have turned over. Maybe in the future we could do something where we say these were the minutes as they existed in 2025. Here are the people that exist now, especially for folks that are newer to our community and or just like me, don't remember what we talked about last year. And then I'm going to go to Larry Baisden and ask for an update on RFID, and he's no longer even on the board. So that's where I think we just have to, a year just seems too long to update meeting minutes for a meeting. But what have you. That's my own opinion. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I have a gym and a beach to get to, so I'm going to go do that. I hope you have a great weekend and vote. In this voter packet, which I will also put a link to, you can see, again, if you need help with who to vote for, you can get the bios from all the folks. There is a plethora on both sides of the fence about who to vote for, why you would vote for someone over someone else. If you have questions, I just for right now would steer clear of the Facebook. I would ask my own questions to people that I trusted and know are like-minded to myself, and read their bios, ask them questions. If you have issues getting in touch with someone, I will say I was a little disappointed that not everyone's bio included even an email to reach out to them to ask questions. So you kind of have to own the directory and or know somebody that may know somebody that has their phone number. I've gotten a couple phone numbers that way. But I do think that that's something that we should shore up in the future. But yeah, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. And please vote. Your vote is important. Even if you don't know who to vote for, ask some questions over the next few days. Make the best informed decision that you can. The governance of our community relies on all of us being engaged and actively involved. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Bye, guys.